Welcome to the Roots and Branches JJC Alumni Podcast. As the nation's first community college, JJC has played a key role in shaping America's higher education system. Our rich and beautiful history reaches more than a century into the past, forever connecting generations of alumni. I'm Jen Davis, Annual Giving and Alumni Relations Manager, and I will be your host. In each episode, we'll sit down with different alumni to uncover their most cherished memories, hear their inspiring tales, and get their hard-earned wisdom for future wolves. So, if you're ready, let's dive into the roots of our rich history and branch out into the stories that define us on this episode of the Roots and Branches JJC Alumni Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to episode 6 of the JJC Alumni Podcast. As I was preparing for today's episode, I realized that we're actually celebrating a pretty special milestone. We've now been on the air for half a year. Time really does fly when you're having fun. Now, we didn't bake a cake for today's celebration, but we do have a master pastry chef joining us, so that feels kind of perfect. Please help me welcome JJC alum, Culinary Professor, and Certified Master Pastry Chef, Andy Chlebana. Andy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jen. I'm really excited to be here. Congratulations on the milestone, and I'll catch you with that cake later, okay?
Okay, I'm going to hold you to that. I'll have to come visit you. Now, Andy, you are definitely one of our stars here at JJC. And before we dive into all the wonderful things that you've done so far in your career and all the amazing experiences you've had as a chef, let's rewind the clock and talk a little bit about how you came to JJC in the first place. Now, you told me that you followed in your brother's footsteps, right?
Yeah, my brother actually called me one day and said, "Hey, do you want to come into work?" And I was like, "Do what?" He's like, "Bus tables." I was 16, didn't know what to do. And I said, "Sure, I'll come in." And I just kind of worked my way through that job. And then when I graduated high school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do for college. My dad was encouraging us to go. And he said, if you don't go now, you're not going to go later. And I decided to follow my brother to JJC and join the culinary program.
Amazing. And so when you got to JJC, I know you knew you wanted to do culinary right off the bat, but how did you develop your focus? What did you decide that you really had a passion for?
It's another funny story. I, like many college students, was looking to avoid a certain instructor. So instead of taking the garde class, I took baking and pastrying with Chef Imming, and something clicked. The light bulb went off and I said, wow, I really like this. I like math, I like science, and baking is the perfect combination of the two.
I've never looked at it like that before. That's interesting. So you avoided a teacher, but found your passion in pastry. And then you really sort of grew a passion for that. And you actually decided that you wanted to start competing while you were here as a student, right?
Right. Oddly enough, my mentor and office mate was the instructor that I tried to avoid while I was a student. Yeah. But, when I came back here, I started on the same day as Chef Bucci, and we both went through the program together back in the 90s. And he was always big into competition, and I had watched a lot of competitions in my previous job. And finally, as an instructor, I had the opportunity and the time to be able to do that. So I jumped in and never felt like I was competitive prior to doing the pastry and ACF competitions. But once I found it just really drove me to do more. And, we always joke around, why are you doing this? And we'll joke around and go, I want a gold medal. I want first place. But it's more about learning than it is about the medals. The medals will come when you learn what you're supposed to be doing in those kitchens. But I think it's important through our careers to keep learning and pushing ourselves. Otherwise, we become stagnant and then we can't give the best of what's out there to our students.
Absolutely. Now, you talked to me about a favorite competition that you had, something that was a really once in a lifetime experience for you. Do you want to share what that favorite competition was?
Yeah, I actually have the jacket sitting next to me on the wall. It hangs in my office. In 2013, I was a member of the U.S. team competing in the Coupe du Monde de la Patisserie in Lyon, France. And there's 3 people on the team, right? And then out of how many pastry chefs are there in the country? And to be invited to the tryout and to try out and to get on the team and then be named the captain of the team. It was my first trip to Europe. It was absolutely amazing. I did not get to enjoy Europe at all. I was so focused on the competition because the competition, those 10 hours in the kitchen with my two teammates, I didn't want to let anyone down. And you don't do this twice. It takes a really twisted person to want to do this one twice. I mean, it is 10 hours.
Yeah, talk about that. What does those 10 hours look like? What do you do to compete?
Unfortunately, in this country, nobody sees the competition. Now it's being streamed, so people have the opportunity to watch it. But, it's overnight, right? Because they're 6 or 7 hours ahead of us. And outside the industry, there's not a lot of people that watch it. So when the timer starts, it's like a marathon. You're conditioning for these things. I was working out. I know it sounds crazy, right? Because people are like, oh, you're just cooking food. But you got to be at the top of your game. You got to be ready to go. Physically, you're tired, you're sore. Because in addition to practicing, I'm working too. And it's just crazy. At the end of the 10 hours, I remember one time I stepped out of the kitchen and I ate a protein bar and slammed whatever energy drink we could find in France, because they're not as common as over here. And I went back in the kitchen. And when it was over, it was kind of funny because most of the pastry chefs competing were men at that time. And the line in the bathroom was so long because nobody stops. You can't give 30 seconds to run to the restroom. You're every minute of your 10 hours is planned out. So in that competition, wow. I had to make the team's chocolate cake and the sugar sculpture.
I've seen your sculptures. They're incredible. So you were also the captain too. So you were doing your part, plus you were leading the team.
Yes, and then I had to deal with whenever the judges would come in the kitchen and you're just head down, focused, doing your thing, and somebody comes up to you with a really thick French accent and they ask you questions that have nothing to do, like, who's your coach? And I'm like, does that matter right now? Can we talk in 9 more hours, please?
Yeah, I remember reading the article when you all had gone to that competition, and it was just so amazing. I think that, obviously our culinary department has always had a wonderful name and reputation, but some of those experiences for our group, and then that has just continued. You've done lots of other really memorable competitions, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's some movies out there, where they get the cast of all the old action movie stars. They put them all in one movie. And sometimes I feel like that's where I'm at. I've been asked to do several competitions kind of last minute when something happens and somebody can't go. So I've competed in Lyon. I've competed in Germany. I've competed in Luxembourg. Another really cool one I did that takes second to the Coupe du Monde, because Coupe is the biggest pastry competition in the world, but we were invited to compete in Dubai and actually we're guests of the royal family. So that was how often can you say that? That jacket's hanging over there too.
I need to come see all these jackets. You just need to wear them, just around campus for fun.
Well, I'm not going to lie. They kind of stopped fitting after I quit competing because, you're not running around as much all day, but now they fit again.
So, I know you've loved competing and cooking yourself, but you also do a lot of coaching for other students and chefs that are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, in 2023, I had the honor of coaching the Coupe du Monde team, and I was also the U.S. judge, which was pretty exciting, kind of bucket list items. Again, you look at these things and you go, I'll never, there's somebody better than me, right? And I'm the one that's here now. Coaching students is great too. It develops them. And I'm actually coaching someone after we get off the podcast. I'm helping her out, get ready for a run tomorrow. And she said the same thing because she was like, I want my gold. And I was like, we'll get you the gold. But she goes, I really want to learn. And that's what it's about. And I think also as an instructor competing, whether it's the TV shows, which everyone sees, right? And the professional competitions, which no one sees, I think it really sets an example to the students that, I'm spending my time to get myself ready. I might be doing one next fall, a competition, which is very rare once you get the certification to go back and compete. But I oddly enough, I don't have a gold medal in showpieces, and I really want one.
You got to add that award.
I got to go earn it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that certification. Something really special and huge happened to you, and it was in 2023, right? It was just last year?
22.
It was 22. Okay. Yes. You were the American Culinary Federation Certified Master Pastry Chef. That is quite the title. What did it take to earn this certification?
There's a lot of great stories behind all these things. And I love to tell this one to the students because sure, I've got it. And then, they look at you and they just see this snippet of your life. And most of them giggle when they go, oh, you've been teaching longer than I've been alive. And I'm like, yeah, that's funny. One day someone will say that to you. They see it. They're like, oh, yeah, this. And oh, that must have been easy. You have it. And I took the test in 2015 and I failed. I failed out halfway through. And that taught me what the evaluators would be looking for a little more than what I thought I knew. And it was brutal. Again, I would come in and I would do a practice run, and a lot of things that I've done have led up to mentally conditioning me to do these events and the certification, because the certification is a new format, and I did 2 9-hour days, and then the last day was a 6-hour day. And when I would do my practices here at the college for the 9-hour days, I would do my 9 hours, clean up, so take notes and have somebody go over the notes with me. So you're looking at probably 10, 11 hours by the time we get out of here. And then I would leave and go to the gym for an hour or two at night. And people don't believe this, but it's not just food. It's physical, it's mental, it's adapting and overcoming. There's something always going to go wrong in the kitchen. It's never perfect, just like life, right? We have to find a way around things. One of my favorite things that happened during the certification was they had a blast freezer, right? So it's like negative 40 degrees. It chills our things down quick. I have one here. I knew they had one there. I was practicing with that. And in the middle of I think it was my second day, I looked over and I go, why is the blast freezer open? And there was only a couple of us taking the test. And they're like, oh, it's broken now. And I'm like, what do you mean it's broken? So without skipping a beat, I said to he wasn't an evaluator, but he was a member of the certification commission. I looked over at him. I go, he was local. And I said, I need to know where my assistant, who's my lab assistant, Jenna from the college, where she can go and how far away it is to pick me up 20 pounds of dry ice. And there was, you know what I mean? Nothing paused. There wasn't a half an hour. I was like, I need this now. And she went and got it. And I think that pivot, they see that. And that's when they go, yes, you know how to do the pastry part, but at the same time, you can think about all these other things that are happening at the same time.
Yeah, and I love you telling this story because I think there's so much behind the scenes that people don't get to see. I mean, baking shows and cooking shows are super popular. You get to see just what's on the screen for entertainment. And sure, you can see some of the things that go wrong and stuff. But, all of the work it takes, like you said, to train, to prep, to be ready for this. And this particular certification, I mean, even in addition to just how grueling it was and what it took for them to finally designate you as that, did I read that it's a very small group of pastry chefs in our country that even get this certification?
So there have been 5 that have passed the exam. Prior to that, it was, if you had your European master chefs, like Chef Imming, that was my instructor here as a master pastry chef, because he had his master pastry chef certification, the first kind of round that counted towards the master pastry chef here. And so 5 of us had passed the test. There are 11 of us still alive. I am the youngest, which because there should be more. There should be more, right? We shouldn't give anything away. There should still be the same rigor. I'm the only one that is currently teaching, and only 2 of us are not retired. So yes, it's a very small group. We always say, even when you take all the master chefs and master pastry chefs, there have been more astronauts, okay, than they're certified from the beginning in this country.
That is incredible. So let's talk about teaching, okay? Because with this certification, with all the experience under your belt, you probably could work anywhere in the world that you want to, and in a lot of different ways. So why JJC? Why did you come back to this program in the first place to be an instructor?
So I started in 2006. So I'm coming up on 20 years fast. And I told one of our deans, I was coming in one day during the summer, and I said, every time I pull in here, I never sit in my car and do that, oh my God, I got to go to work. It's not like, yeah, I got to go to work, but it's like, all right, let's go in there and do what we got to do. There's never a day that I dread being here. I love the students. I've had a few classes before, but the class that I have right now, there is so much personality and so much character in them. I love it. I love them. They're great. And I get to tell them that next week, and they're going to go, oh, he tells every class this, but that's not going to be the case. It's going to be, you guys, you can't forget them. With the size of the program and the size of our classes, we really get a chance to learn our students on a deeper level. We know where they work. We know where they're at. We celebrate their victories outside. We feel their pain when something bad happens. I got terrible news from a student yesterday about their family. And it's just like, okay, well, we'll figure it out, right? That's not a normal thing. And then giving back too, because I think as I get towards the end, right, of my I still got a long time. Although somebody asked me this week, aren't you supposed to be retiring soon? I said,
no, not yet.
No. But I started when I was 30. So my 30 years would be it. I'd be 60. And I'm like, I'm already thinking, and I think right now in my head, I'm going, the best thing would be to hand the baton or the rolling pin or spatula off to someone else and say, here, this is what we did. Now it's yours. You take it for the next 30 or 40 years, 30 years. It goes so fast, right?
Oh, it really does. It really does. I mean, I'll be at 20 years at JJC in a couple more years too. And it's just crazy. I don't know how that happens, but having worked with alumni now who have come out of our culinary program, I mean, I really could never count how many times someone had you as an instructor, and just can't say enough about the time that you give them, that you weren't just like a teacher to them, that you were a mentor, you were a coach. And, culinary, like you've explained just in how rigorous it is. I mean, it's not an easy field. It's a hard field, and you need support in lots of different ways. So you just get so much feedback from students. Your passion is obvious to them. It's obvious to those of us who work here with you. And so I think we feel pretty special that someone with your experience who could go everywhere is staying here to keep training the next generation of students. But what do you think is your favorite part about teaching? I know you've kind of touched on it, but your very, very favorite part about teaching.
Yeah, my favorite part is when every semester is different. The group you get is different. But one thing that happens every semester is, they come in on that first week and I lecture for 6 hours the first day. It's brutal. I can't talk. If I have 2 sections, I'm dying at the end of the second one. And they're all sitting in their chairs, kind of like falling asleep. And, you know when to give them a break, when to get louder, right? But the day after that first day that we're in the kitchen, watching them, just, they fumble through the kitchen. They don't know where anything's at. They don't know what we expect. I've just bombarded them with information. And then I'm going to spend the rest of our time, the rest of the 16 weeks together, reinforcing what we started on that first day and then building on that knowledge. But what I love is now, the end of the semester, when you watch them, or you get a non-traditional student, right? That's like, I haven't been in college in 20 years and I don't this and that. And I go, look at the conversation we had the first week and look how much more you know and how you get it now. And a big part of what I do is try to get them to connect the dots themselves. I don't like to just, when they come up and ask a question, I hate just saying, do this. It's always like, well, why would you do it that way? Is that the right attachment? We didn't show you to do that, did we? How would I do that? And then they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, all you guys got to do is just it's there. You just got to pull it out of them.
So I always loved in my years teaching too, it's those final weeks of the semester when you can see that all your hard work, their hard work is all coming together. It's such a great moment. And now you said you've got this wonderful class this semester. So it's also bittersweet too, isn't it? When they then move on and move to the next step.
Well, they're still in the building for at least another year. So we will still see them, because a lot of the other students that I've had in the past, they'll come up because they'll be working on their finals and they'll say, this week, well, chef, we need a 10-inch cake pan and this and that. Do you have a recipe for this? And then even after they leave, they still contact us, right? It's not like, well, you're done. See you later. Like a bird push out of the nest and we'll never see you again. They come back, right? And always, or I'll run into them in, hot spots around town, right? Like the hardware store, parking lot. I students call, they're like, hey, chef. And I'm like, hey, yeah, how's it going? I can't remember who they are, like, hey, yeah, you remember? Like, oh, totally, great speed. How's it going?
Of course I remember you. Yeah. That's wonderful. Okay, so there's a lot of things that our culinary department is just doing all the time. There's lots of competitions, there's lots of work. But for those maybe who don't realize just how much is going on over at City Center, I wanted to share a little bit about that. We have 2 different student-run restaurants throughout the school year that are up at certain times. What's your role in anything with either of the restaurants?
I support Thrive on the first floor with, we do the bread. So every Thursday night dinner for both semesters, we supply bread and desserts. And then, in the spring semester, I have 2 sections of class. So we also supply the lunch class and Thrive with desserts and bread. So the reason I do that is it gives the students more of a real world experience when they're in the class versus like, oh, this week we're going to make, 3 cakes. And that's all you got to do. And if you're really fast, we'll make some other things here and there. It's this week we're making a cake and the filling and the icing, and we need to prep out all the desserts for the restaurant. And then through those desserts, we work on some of the other skills that they'll be using on their finals. So that way I really believe in reinforcement.
Yeah. One of my favorite things when I come to the restaurants, when I eat at Thrive is when we get to watch the students work. Our city center campus culinary facilities are so amazing. I love watching the students work. It is one of my favorite things to do. And do your students with the pastries and the bread, are they ever working those days, or is your work with those pieces sort of behind the scenes and then it's provided to the restaurants?
We're behind the scenes and then we provide it. And my wife and I always come in once during the semester for dinner. And whenever we come in, she always sits down first, but she always lets me sit so I can watch the kitchen. It's usually we're on Thursday nights for dinner, and she knows that I like to watch the students. And the students crack me up too, because you'll see them and they'll be working, they'll have their heads down, right? Because we can talk about how awesome the food is all day long, but I don't think, again, people realize like how much work goes in that food. And then I love watching Chef Bucci run around back there too and like make sure everything's good when it comes out. But it cracks me up. The students will like pop their head up and I'm like, oh, chef's here. And then they're like waving from the back of the dining room.
Waving from the, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So the restaurants, what I like about them too is so many of our donors who are big supporters of our culinary school get to come and see the students in action. And there's another event that you all put on in our culinary school called Wandering Feast. I believe you have it all set up to do it again this coming spring, right?
We are doing it. And as soon as we mentioned, look, all the tickets are already gone. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. Poop. Yeah, no, I got to be careful about listing how we get those, right? They're very, very coveted tickets. I will give a little bit of information at the end for that. But Wandering Feast, for those who've never attended, what is that event like, if you could explain it a little bit?
I think the easiest way to explain it is there will be more food than any one human being could ever eat. That is not a challenge. You will. People come in like, oh, I hit everything.
Yes.
And I'm like, there's no way. It is 5 floors of food. So everything, every class, every kitchen is full with some sort of items. On the 4th floor, the most important one, we're doing pastries, right? And it cracks me up because when the event starts, people are like lined up outside the door ready to come in. And we're setting up until the last minute because it's a lot of work. And the students have never done anything like this. They've never produced. We do around 4,000 pieces for that night. And when you're talking about 300 people, like just do the math, that's a lot. And that's one pastry kitchen. Chef Mark has his, right? And then they've got the 2 kitchens on the 5th floor, 1st and 2nd floor. Then usually somebody's tucked in somewhere else on the 3rd floor. And then all the adult beverages. It's a good time.
Oh, I haven't missed it. I haven't missed it in the last couple of years when I didn't even realize what the event was like and everyone was talking about it here at work. They said, you got to get to Wandering Feast this year. And you're telling the truth. There is more food than you can even imagine, but we try now to pace ourselves. But yes, I love the people that race right up to the pastry level. Like they start with the pastries first and then work their way everywhere. But what a cool experience to get to see all the different students and all the things they've been working on and taste all the incredible award-winning food that our culinary school is putting on. And then obviously the beauty of it is, working in the foundation, we get to be a very teeny tiny small part of that night by helping promote it and get our donors and stuff there. And the money that's raised from that, those go to more culinary scholarships. It will purchase knife kits. It will purchase, and it does so much for the students too, that we really love any opportunity to fundraise for culinary. And we have a lot of people very invested in the program. In fact, Annie, you are such a wonderful donor to the program. You give back regularly through employee giving. And why did you decide to do that? What motivates you to keep giving back since you're already giving so much?
We do great on the scholarship side. And I think we can always do better, right? Hint, hint.
For everyone listening, hint, hint.
No, it's great to be able to assign the scholarships because we do that on our own time, right? It's a couple hours every semester, if not more. We do that. And I'll be honest, so I contribute to the student emergency fund. And part of that is once I found out what that fund does, and I've actually referred students to that fund as well. I think that there's a lot of things that a lot of people in this world take for granted. A roof over your head, an internet connection, right? Like there's
Yes.
things that we all go like, oh my God, you don't have Netflix? Like for some people, it's a meal, right? Or they're just getting by on something. And one time it really hit home for me when I just started out. I was at the old city center campus, and this car was parked out there every single day. And it was somebody that was coming in the building. I don't know where they were going, but they were living in their car. And I was like, if my contribution can help that, then that's where I want it to be. And I think, a lot of time the students aren't even aware that that's an option, or even some of them don't even pay attention to scholarships. And we try to
True.
push them to apply. And I don't think they realize everything that we're all doing for them, that they have these awesome opportunities that they can be awarded money or helped in some way.
I mean, that's the goal up here. That's my job, is to help make people aware of not just where we need help and support for students. Donating to student emergency, it's so crucial, because there's never a semester where there aren't plenty of students that are in need. There's still always a gap. We're trying to fill the students who need assistance for different things. And so student emergency is an opportunity. But yes, the scholarships that we have available, over $1 million we have already given out, and the year's not even over yet. And so there's so much help that we can provide students, but we rely on professors like you who are always giving back their time, giving back their money, and then making students aware of those resources. So we thank you for being so supportive in that way. So we have Wandering Feast as an event where someone can purchase a ticket. That's money that goes. You can donate directly to Culinary. Is there anything else coming up at City Center in our culinary department you want anybody to know about?
We talked about the restaurants, but supporting the restaurants really gives the students an opportunity to have another real world experience. So when they leave, they're not like stepping into a kitchen, going on the line and being kind of lost. So it's a win-win, right? You're getting an awesome meal in either one of the restaurants. And then the busier the students are, obviously there's a limit. We have a cutoff point, but the busier that they are, the more they get to see what it's like when they're out there. And I think too, one more thing about the Wandering Feast, that people, it's a feel good, right? You're donating money and you're eating. Okay. So like there's no loss. But the other cool thing, I think, for the donors, and I have a lot of friends that come, and they're Joliet firefighters, or they work around here. And they're asking me, like, as soon as it's over, you're doing this again next year, can we buy tickets? And they'll walk around it. The way that all of the kitchens are set up is the food's not out like on what we'd call like a traditional buffet, and chafing dishes and being held all night. It's literally being cooked and refilled by the students. So when you come in, you can tell them that you're a foodie, and you can talk to them about all the things you made, and they'll some of them are shy, but some of them will be more than happy to talk your ear off because they want to share. And from an industry perspective, we were tucked in the back, and we were always hidden, and we never had an opportunity to see the people's reaction, because you think about this event, and it's a couple hours long, 3 hours long, but the amount of prep time that goes into making that happen, it's temporary art, what we create. The food is eaten, it's enjoyed, it creates a memory for them. Oh, I remember that time I had this thing, or that student talked to me about how they made this. And that to me is like the experience that somebody takes with them forever. And you just remember, because I think a lot of food is memories for me, that you think about as a kid, what you ate and what was served to you, or you go out to a nice dinner, right? You tie that to something.
Food is very nostalgic. But yes, what you talk about at Wandering Feast with the students and them talking, I would say more than anything, that was one of the most enjoyable parts of the night, is if you liked something that you were eating, that student was right there. And once you knew that you could ask them to tell you about the dish or to tell you how they made it, their face would light up. I saw people taking, like pictures with them holding their dish. Proud parents of those students getting to come in and see all the work that they've been doing all semester. And they were just so excited to be showcased like that. So any opportunities that we can get people in front of our students, including our 2 restaurants, take advantage of it. Those who are local everyone listening, take advantage of our wonderful restaurants. If you ever want to know the menus, when they're open, how to make reservations, all you have to do is visit jjc.edu, and under our About JJC tab, you'll select places of interest, and our 2 restaurants are highlighted there. So make sure that you check those out, especially next semester. Well, actually, this will be airing in February and you guys will be open again. So make sure you check it out and look at those menus. They change all the time and help support our students in that way. So Andy, at the end of all of the podcasts, I always like to ask what your advice is for future wolves. This can be specifically to your culinary students or just JJC students in general, but what advice do you have for new students that are just getting ready to start here?
I think for a new student, they have to understand that especially the ones that are coming right out of high school, that JJC can still provide you the community that you had in high school. It's a little bit different. My oldest 3 and my youngest will be coming here next year. And the older 3 came in towards the tail end of COVID, so they were a lot of online. But I think they're coming back. My kids are coming back to the school now. And I'm like, you got to check this out. You got to go talk to that person. You got to go over there. You should go to this event. There's so much offered here. If you want to just come and make this like classes and get out, that's fine. But I think you're missing out on the college experience and not the college experience of going away. To me, that's expensive, right? Here, there's just so much for you to get into. And I did the same thing when I went to school. If I could be a part of an event, like I remember going to the Joliet Mall, and I can't remember what we were doing there, but we were doing something for the program. I was younger. I was a goofy kid. And, we're sitting there and you're going to do these things. And then when you go, you're with your friends. And those are the people, right, that you take with you forever. It's like your teens in high school, you're really part of a family in this department. And we do some things. And if you have an opportunity to be a part of those, that's great too. But there's so much more this college has to offer that people are unaware of. So open your eyes.
You're right.
Check it out.
Yeah, I've got a daughter starting not next year, but the year after, and she's already most excited about that. She wants to try everything. You'll probably see her in one of your classes because she just loves to cook and bake, but that is one of the most wonderful things about us, and I love that was part of your advice. So thank you for sharing that. And Annie, I'm just so happy that you were able to join us today. You're one of our stars in the culinary department, and we really wanted to hear you share all the wonderful things that you and your students are doing over there. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on, Jen. You can tell I get a little excited, right? I think it's a great place to be. And the more people that we can have join us, the better. And they get experience.
And we love your enthusiasm.
Yeah, whether they're hitting us from the dining room side or taking classes, everybody needs to eat. So come on down.
That's right. Yes. Visit the restaurants. So we have that information. And then also, if you want to make sure that you are on our mailing list to be notified of events like Wandering Feast and other fundraisers and scholarship opportunities that we have available, make sure that you fill out the form at jjc.edu/stayconnected. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. And we hope you'll join us on the next episode of the JJC Alumni Podcast. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Roots and Branches JJC Alumni Podcast. For more episodes, information, foundation events, and ways to give or get involved, visit jjc.edu/alumni.